Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. This is our first episode of our new monthly series. I am Alison Connor. I am the Senior Global Product Marketing Manager at Veeam, and I work on our newest product, Veeam Backup for Salesforce. So I am so excited to be here and excited to welcome our first guest as well. But first, let us know where you are in the world. Yeah, just go ahead. You can enter your US state or your country in the chat, and we'd just love to let you know where you're watching from. So I am currently in Newport Beach, California. Our producer is in Georgia, and our first guest is from halfway around the world. So our guest is AZ. He is a global technologist for product strategy here at Veeam. And hi, AZ. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Alison, thank you for having me. And I saw some people joining from Romania, so this is good. And, the map is, leading up.
Great. So excited. There's no one better, I think, to have on our very first episode because no one knows this product better than you do, really. Wow. So I'm excited. I'm excited to go through everything and talk about, the reasons people really need a backup for Salesforce. And I know you're the perfect person for that.
All right. Yeah, let's have a good conversation about it.
Love it. Okay, well, let's see. Do we have a lot of people joining? I see we have quite a few people, which is fantastic. Thank you for coming. We're so excited you're here. So what do you think, AZ? Do you want to maybe start the first slide and we'll talk a little bit about, Salesforce data protection? And I think we'll start with the difference between perception and reality. I think that everybody perceives that it's in the cloud, it's protected, and we really don't have to think about it. But the reality is, yes, Salesforce does, take care of the infrastructure, but I think you need to really protect your own data and metadata. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So the thing is that we've seen already this story a couple of times. We've been, having the same conversation for AWS, Azure, GCP, just happening a couple of years ago, and even Microsoft Office 365. So whenever we went as a company, as a data protection company, whenever we went and we explored those markets, so the perception was always wrong. And then it was like multiple things that, can go wrong, multiple things related to, all the time to shared responsibility models that those companies, they have as part of the end user level agreement. And we as users, I go to Salesforce and then, I try to register myself over there. And then, who reads those agreements? Right. Sometimes you don't have enough time, right? And then you just click, okay, you go. And then, well, apparently you missed that part of information, but then, the company expected you to take care of data protection. So that's really interesting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's your data, it's their metadata. They just need to protect it. Right?
Yeah. Let me give you another point, Alison,
sure.
Because I went to Salesforce. I was trying to prep for the launch webinar with you, and so I found one interesting knowledge base article over there. So it's by Salesforce. It's what they do, what they say officially. Mm-hmm. So besides of share responsibility model, obviously they have that. But then they also state that, we realize that we have some built-in tools, and then you might leverage them, data loader, for example. But then, they were not really designed for like advanced data protection. And so if you are a Salesforce user, just don't hesitate and talk to any third-party vendors out there. We've got like multiple vendors, Epic Change. We've got vendors like Veeam, being like somewhere else, but we have the listing at Epic Change as well. But anyways, it's like they're saying it's your responsibility as our user, the user of our platform, to go ahead and to bring your own third-party solution. You can't say enough of this. So yeah, here's the thing.
100% agree. If Salesforce is saying it, it must be true. And definitely you should listen 100%. There's so many reasons why you would need, a data protection. Maybe let's take a quick look at the next slide. And these are just some of the reasons that we seem to hear all the time. And if you look at our top 9, it's amazing that 5 of them are human error. So the top reasons are not something terrible happens, there's a hurricane. It's really someone within possibly your organization that are making these mistakes that if you're not protected, maybe you can't come back from that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I would argue with the point that it's not terrible. Even like regardless, obviously we're thinking about hurricanes in how they're how terrible they are. But then in the life of a Salesforce administrator, it doesn't really matter whether it's a hurricane or someone with, I don't know, overprivileged accounts coming there and deleting some bunch of data. So that's like the equal disaster for them. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of those happening in production. And I guess my question to you, Alison, kind of coming back to you, would be what do you think the most popular is, and what's your thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, the most popular one, I think, is just from the admin. I mean, there are just times when, especially in a larger organization, where the sales administrator might be pushed to put something into production really, really quickly. Maybe the exec team is saying we need to make this change, something's happening, and they just don't take the time to test it in the sandbox. And they just push it to production. Something's wrong. It just filters down, and then it's just a problem that has to be rebuilt. And so that's really the one that I feel is so important. But what I am hearing a lot now is just the overprivileged user. I mean, so I think this happens the most when maybe your company is a little bit smaller. You bring in Salesforce, and maybe you give admin rights to 5 people. Maybe we give them to someone from sales and someone from marketing. So everyone has it. Everyone started learning how to use it. Then the company grows. And then what happens is possibly they don't know who has those has those admin user ways that they can delete things. And suddenly things are being deleted. They're not understanding why. They don't know how to get them back. And suddenly it's just someone in sales who had these admin privileges, to begin with. They still have them. And then that's when it all goes bad.
All right, yeah, I totally get it. Besides that, I would think, the other point over here would be anything related to automation. And Salesforce is highly automated platform. And then, I imagine like a couple of those roles, like traditional, I don't know, administrators that, for example, that somehow got charged and got responsible for Salesforce for its implementation in their own company. And they're trying to obviously to learn the platform and what it is. They are seeing a lot of automation options. And so they go ahead and they, talk to community, to trailblazers, for example, and they, try to use like a bunch of code over there, like creating their own Apex triggers, for example. And then what sometimes they don't realize is, how what the consequence of their actions would be. And then when you run in a script and you wanting to update a bunch of fields for various accounts, for example, and then it does something else, what would you do? How would you recover them back to the previous state? So that's like a nightmare, right? And so everyone should be cautious about it.
Right.
So
right.
Alison,
Right. No,
I'm seeing that, yeah, we've got some information from, our tech team about people joining from other countries, and they're, putting themselves on the map. So I think we have to to call them out. Thank you for joining from Hungary. Oh, Brazil over there, obviously. We've got someone from different states, I think, Virginia, Ohio. Thank you for joining, guys. That's kind of the middle of the day for you. That's really good. Anyone else in Europe? No, I guess it's still Brazil, but all right. Anyone from Africa whatsoever? No. All right, it might be a little bit late for them, but anyways. Okay, so Alison, let's come back to the slides. And while we were here we were talking about 9 reasons of potential disasters and potential things happening to Salesforce environment. But we should probably start from this conversation from the kind of the level of responsibility in the companies and who actually owns Salesforce. Do you happen to know what kind of typically the team that is owning it?
Right, absolutely. So this is a huge question we get as well, is who owns Salesforce inside your organization? So usually in this sort of situation in other products, it would be, the IT department, the backup admin maybe. So, but with Salesforce, as when I talked about when you bring it newly into an organization, is it business operations who are in charge? Maybe marketing, because they maybe use a third party automation system, and so they're in charge. Is it the Salesforce admin? If it's a larger organization, they might have an admin on staff. A smaller company might have a consultant, or even the Salesforce consultant who came in to do the implementation. So there's just so many people, and I think we find that a lot is everyone just asking around when something goes wrong, and unfortunately, the asking around doesn't happen until something goes wrong. Who is in charge of this? Who is supposed to make this decision? And who's in charge of having a backup so nothing bad happens?
Yeah, I can tell you that over the last year, I've been on multiple conversations, multiple calls with different customers and potential customers of Veeam. And that's kind of, I don't know whether it's a joke or a fun game, but then, we've got people from multiple departments joining the conversation. And then they're like, okay, obviously there should be someone from Salesforce. They know what they are doing. But then essentially, if we're talking about data protection, who should it be? And they start pointing fingers. And then,
Yes.
The last thing you want to happen is to hear the conversation between, I don't know, the backup administrator and Salesforce administrator, and then backup administrator would be like, hey, I can, recover the data, and Salesforce administrator would be nuts about it. It would be, no, there is no way. And well, first of all, you cannot really see the data. I don't want you to see the data. I don't want you to recover it because you'll break everything. So it's the conversation goes on and on. But this is something that I've seen a lot.
Yeah, and I can assume you've also in these conversations found that people have these conversations once the data is lost, right? Sometimes they're not having these conversations beforehand, to let's set up. It's more like, shoot, we've lost the data. Now what do we do? And that's when the finger pointing starts.
Yeah, so I think that the major issue here is it's a little bit of a different platform, especially for backup administrators, because it was relatively easy journey for them going from physical servers to virtual machines to then cloud instances, some cloud services, etc. But then these SaaS platforms, sometimes, it's those that kind of knowledge that you used to have, it's just not enough. And then you have to actually dig in and you have to learn the Salesforce basic. And sometimes it's not just basics. And yeah, it's kind of a vague line between who's responsible for what.
Yeah, and I've had conversations, many with our customers when I talk to them about the product, and sometimes the answer is, do we really need a backup for Salesforce? And then I remind them, I don't know. What would happen at your company if you were without your Salesforce data for an hour or a day?
That's actually a good conversation opener. I heard it multiple times, and they were like, oh, wait, what if actually? And, they start thinking immediately about it. And you're like, okay, so didn't you think about it before? Right. But luckily, I've got a solution, so I'm bringing it to you.
Right. What would your sales team do? If they can't find, they can't find their customers? It would just it would just put your business to a standstill, right? And so, this moves us to the next, that we've been talking about, our new Veeam Backup for Salesforce. So this really eliminates the risk of losing, your Salesforce data and your metadata, which is so important. And this can be due to all the different reasons. It can be human error, it can be integration, just any other data loss scenario. And, some of the highlights, which for our product is really, we give you complete control of your data. So you can really back it up anywhere you choose, and, and separating it from its source, avoiding the lock-in, so you can adjust your backup strategy, for what your business needs, what is best for you, right? Along with the flexible recovery, you exactly where you what you need, when and where you need it, with all the recovery options. And of course, we have built this specifically, for Salesforce. So, it includes granular scheduling, easy to use UI, and near continuous backup, which is so important to be able to say, what is more important to my business? Is it every 10 minutes? Is it every 30 minutes? Now, have you found that, AZ, when you're talking to customers, that you found, oh, maybe I want to back up this every 10 minutes, but maybe I don't need to back up this over here for an hour? Are there different scenarios that you're finding that people want?
Well, Alison, so you've been pointing and highlighting different things about our solution, which finally we've got on the market. But I was thinking, what if we just do a live demo of this solution, and what if we show that user interface? Because you mentioned it already a couple of times, how easy it is to get started with it, and I cannot talk enough about the full control and things that our customers would have for their Salesforce data, because it's basically it's up to them where to install it, and it's up to them how to use this data, because it's like, well, here is the copy of your data from Salesforce. It is a separate database, which is Postgres. You can run any query against it. You can use this data, whenever you feel like. You can, I don't know, probably fill up the sandbox by using this data, things like that. So what I'm showing right now is Veeam Backup for Salesforce. I don't want to go through many details and bothering you with installation and things like that. But then just have a look. This is modern, simple user interface. You can see that I've got already a couple of organizations, Salesforce orgs, added here, and for each of those orgs I've got one backup policy, which is just enough. And if you're a Veeam user, you would probably argue, oh, I used to have multiple jobs and things like that, but then there is no need for that in Salesforce world. We protect everything we can. We leverage Salesforce APIs, so a bunch of them actually, and we've got a nice switch over mechanism whenever we perform basically any operation. We could, switch over between and select the most appropriate API set for the job. So with that, I wanted to to touch on a couple of things, just briefly saying what it is, and then later, if you've got more comments, we could go to some other places of this user interface. But essentially, I'm showing you a configuration panel of this solution, and what I would like to highlight is the ability to integrate it with your Azure Active Directory over here. So you can see I've got one application already, app registration created in Azure. And now I can have multiple users from my Azure Active Directory managing all or just some specific organizations or companies that I have inside of the solution. So it's just one console to manage multiple Salesforce orgs. And by seeing those roles that my users have, you can see that some of them, they have full administrative privileges, some of them just restore operators, or some of them just viewers, so they cannot do anything other than viewing. So this is really great. This is really granular. Another thing I would like to mention over here is related to our alerting system. So we've got obviously the email alerts, but then that's not sexy anyhow. But what about Slack alerts? So you can create an application inside of Slack, and you can get yourself or your channel consisting of multiple people notified about anything, pretty much anything happening within this solution, and you can respond immediately to that. Okay, so I'm going to exit configuration and go to backup policy just really quickly, just to show you what it is. A couple of things here. One thing I would like to highlight is the ability to create custom schedules and protect different objects or types of objects with those schedules. So for example, if you got, I don't know, a regular company, you would like to protect everything daily, which is fine. But then your sales team, sometimes they want to protect accounts and opportunities, and I don't know, support team, they want to protect cases more frequently. So it's really easy for you to create a custom schedule and to assign it to appropriate object, and off you go. Another thing on this screen is related to the setting API limits, because we want to be API friendly. And so this particular capability would allow you to actually define those limits for your API sets, because you don't want to overspend it. You don't want to run out of quota, obviously. And so we are going to be mindful about it. And whenever you reach the quota, we will hold our operations. We'll wait some time until we retry to perform them again, and then just trying to make sure that all your Salesforce experience is seamless. Okay, that's about the backup policy. I think this is kind of it about the policy. Well, just probably last fact that I wanted to mention here is the ability to set like retention the way you want. And since the data would be under your control, on premises or in the cloud that you control, so it's like indefinite amount of years, right? If you want, because you can go for days, months, or weeks. But then I think I was having the POC with one of the customers the other day, and they set it to 300 years, which is more than enough for sure. Okay, let me quickly exit the settings of the backup policy and go to restore operations, which we have over here in an appropriate tab. So let me click next, and then I will talk about the different restore types, because we truly believe it's, you should be as granular as possible whenever it comes to restore operations. Veeam is always kind of, famous for saying that, backup is not worth anything unless you try recovery. So we're doubling down on recovery, and we offer 4 different recovery types, starting from deleted, merged, or corrupted records, something that we truly believe would be the most popular operation people would be performing. And, if you don't need that, you can go to recovery of particular files related to those objects or metadata. Sometimes you need to perform metadata recovery before you perform data recovery and things like that. Okay, so a couple of things I wanted to mention inside of this wizard, because it kind of drives me crazy in a positive way. So I would select an object whenever I need to recover, for example, accounts. And then I'm going to search for all of my accounts. So I've got 122 different records over there. And now I have an option to pick any of those accounts. Okay, so for example, Rick, let's see if this guy has anything on production. So yeah, you can see I can manually move this toggle and move it on, and I can compare the data between the backup state and the production state, which is really helpful. And this would allow me to see what's going on the production, and to see, that there were a lot of fields that actually changed with this particular object. So this is the object that I want to recover. So I'm kind of visually seeing that, there is a need for that to be recovered. All right. And then probably one of the last things is if we go a couple of steps further, and then we have the hierarchy recovery, which is over here. So if you enable this one, this particular body will bring you all the dependent. Okay, this wasn't really the best example for the object, but then let me pick more of those, and then come back to the recover different account. Okay, for example, United Corp UK. So you can see this particular account, whenever I'm trying to recover it, it also has a lot of hierarchy underneath. 7 different opportunities, and some like tasks under those opportunities, and different cases, context, everything. So now you can just navigate yourself, you can browse that data, and you can, again, visually make sure that you're recovering everything along with this particular account. And so that would be really helpful, because you're bringing the data back. So Alison, I know I've been talking a lot, but then we have to come up with the conclusion of this demo. What's your favorite feature about our product? Let me put it this way.
Absolutely. So it seems simple, but it's just the fact that we back up the data and the metadata. Because so many other products, they're just giving you your data. Without the metadata, it's almost useless. It's almost useless to not have the other pieces, the files, the different pieces from the lead layout that are so important. So having both those, it makes such a difference. I don't know how you could possibly, if you lost everything, I don't know how you could possibly build that back manually without the metadata. I don't think it would be possible.
Yeah, that would be terrible. But well, luckily it's not. It's kind of even even when we talk about data, it's not just data, being the records of sorts. We also take care of files and attachments, and we like store them independently. And so essentially, it's like the way how you can basically pull everything that could be pulled out of Salesforce, and you can have a copy of that. And you can put it on your USB drive if you want, and you can bring it with you to, I don't know, on your trip, if that makes any sense for you. But then it's priceless, I think.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, your demo was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And wondering, we could look at the map again really quickly. I think we have some new countries joining. Okay. I think so. I think we see Spain and South Africa. I think you just, manifested that, AZ, but, it happened.
I thought that was too late for them, but well, thank you.
I guess not.
Welcome.
Right. So fantastic. So I wanted to touch on one thing that I mentioned a bit earlier, and AZ's reaction to it. So when I said, what would your company do if you lost your data for an hour, a day or a week? And I think everyone on this LinkedIn Live should think about that. Think about your own company. Think about your salespeople, and think about, what would that look like if an hour, a day, or a week went by and we didn't have Salesforce up and running? What would that look for our company? I think it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, so I hear from our social media team that some people comment that, and they got really funny faces even whenever they're thinking about the Salesforce data loss. So Adrian, thank you for sharing that. That was really interesting.
Yeah. So we are, again, so excited about our new product. We just wanted to mention quickly the offers that we have. So we have a community edition that is fantastic. It's 50 users or below, but it's free forever. So you really, especially with small organizations, you can, while you're growing, you can try this out, and then, as organizations grow, then, you go from there. But it's a fantastic offering that we have. And then we are offering a promotion. So for the first year, the first 12 months, we have two packages. So one is for 300 users or below, and it's just $2,000, and that's for the entire year. We also have another package, which is unlimited users. So really 301 and above, whatever that may be, and that is for $10,000. So again, if you just like to try it out, like to bring it in. So we always offer a 30-day full trial license, and this is a full product functionality, and it's free for 30 days, which is fantastic. Just, try it out and have your Salesforce admin and your team take a look.
Yeah, I know I'm biased over here, but I've been on several calls, and then what people figured out that while we are having such great promotion offers, and they have like some budget remained in, some money remained in their budget. So they were thinking, okay, so we already like this product from the way how you're showing it. So we're going to purchase it, like using the offer. And then we know that, later it's going to be much more expensive, but we won't care about it because we'll already have it and we'll just implement it in January, February, because this is, they're already thinking Christmas. So, well, can't really blame them.
Absolutely. So here we go. Just go ahead and use our QR code right here, to go straight to our trial license and learn more about it. And it looks like we are running a little bit low on time. We're coming to the end. So we just want to really thank everyone for tuning in to our very first episode. We hope in the new year that we're going to cover a lot of really interesting topics. And we really hope you come back and watch again next month. Thank you so much for being here, AZ. I really appreciate it.
One remaining comment, Nura, you're right. There is a question from you on LinkedIn. You are absolutely right. That's how the promotion looks like. So yeah, thank you so much, Alison, for having me here. And I hope that our audience, they learned something new today, and they will come back to us because Veeam Backup for Salesforce would save their backend.
Great, thanks. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.